If you've never played an MMO, you don't know what that means at all. It means massively multiplayer online game. These are titles that don't just have 2 players or 4 players, teams versus teams. It's actually much more, so much so that it is massively multiplayer. It means like hundreds sometimes. It could even be 1,000. It's a lot of people all together playing together. Sometimes against each other, sometimes cooperatively, sometimes both. It's factions, who knows? Free for all. There's all sorts of different games out there, and I want to talk about some that are up and coming for 2023, a year that looks really exciting for the genre, at a time where we kind of had a generation or so, a decade almost, of sort of a downward slope in the genre, where maybe you forgot the definition of what it really means to play an MMO, and maybe you just never actually ever had the magic and what made the whole genre special in the first place. I want to help give that to you. But do know all the footage that I'm showing is from trailers. These are upcoming games, or maybe a game that just came out or is a beta test, so basically like, I'm not really in it. Any of my thoughts on these games are just sort of glimpses at a theory, potentially, of what it could be like. And if you are part of this genre, if you're a part of this community, you know that this is sort of a trend. This is something that we just do. We are always hungry for the next big MMO, ever since basically World of Warcraft. We've been chasing Guild Wars 2, and then Elder Scrolls Online, and then every little free-to-play game that has come out and gone, all these Korean titles, remember Black Desert? Yeah, we've been through pretty much all of them. And if you haven't, well, that's been a journey, but just know that there is a very real problem in this community of chasing dragons. And I just kind of want to mention that it is something to be weary of, and every game that I'm going to mention in this video should be looked at with like a grain of salt or whatever, some cynicism, but at the same time, it's sort of a double-edged sword, but there is actually something to celebrate with chasing hype. And when you play a game that houses like 100 players in any one zone, or you get to play with dozens and dozens of players all leveling together, it actually is really a completely unique and novel experience compared to any other video game that you've ever played if you've never played an MMO. If you play like in the first week, if you play in the first day, if you launch and join a guild or start a guild with your friends or make friends in this game in the first days, it is really something special. So if you want to do that, or if you're just somebody who loves MMOs and want to hang out with us, you can totally do that in the Discord. Maybe you know this channel, maybe you know me, or maybe not. It kind of doesn't matter. I've created a safe space for you, guys, friends, and family to go and meet and party up and play games, if it's old MMOs or new. Join the link in the description to join the Discord, the Video Game Party Club. We'll even do game invasions. We'll probably go ahead and invade an MMO soon. But without further ado, now that we have set our morals for the fable, let's just go ahead and just rant out the upcoming MMO for 2023 that actually will release, and hopefully we all get to play together and have some fun. So starting the list, I wanted to actually have up-and-coming or rising MMO, and I thought what would happen is I would find some indie game that came out like in the past year, maybe past year or two if it was an alpha beta, and has been slowly, steadily become better and has more players. And there's a bunch of games that I knew were notable, but then when I actually looked at their player counts and when I looked at their expansion or release dates, patch notes, I actually noticed that most MMO really, yeah, I don't know, maybe it was 2 years ago, or maybe there was, there's just not that many players now. For some reason, there really actually just has been a lull in content for a lot of games. And frankly, yeah, it's pretty much just World of Warcraft right now. And that's surprising because the past 2 expansions, yeah, also were on that downward trend. MMOs being games as a service are so weak, so susceptible to, I think, really bad marketing practices that would really get injected. Like the monetization schemes get skewed to kind of ruin the gameplay so that you're more promoted to either loot box or buy extra subscriptions or this or that, keep you playing longer than you need to, and it's just really too frictional. But with this newest expansion that really just came out for World of Warcraft, already immediately, even when an MMO is kind of at its worst, whenever there's a new expansion, even day one, people were like, wait a second, this is kind of going back to roots. This is kind of like an expansion that you would expect like 3rd or 4th, around Wrath of the Lich King. Like a lot of people are actually dipping out of classic World of Warcraft because it's like, this is just as good as vanilla World of Warcraft, which is funny because vanilla World of Warcraft is such an old game. If you didn't play it, it was magical, but if you play it now, it's still kind of magical. It really is. But it shows its age, it does. So it's really cool to have bells and whistles and still that sort of nostalgic game design with extra cool things seen here with DragonFlight. And of course you get that, yeah, World of Warcraft definitely has stolen ideas from Guild Wars 2, especially with the new expansion of Guild Wars 2, right, that it did decent. It got, really good scores. Same thing with Elder Scrolls Online, same with a bunch of MMOs, they did good, but the acclaim that World of Warcraft is having right now, the resurgence, is at the scale that you would expect of the next big MMO. It just maybe turns out the next big MMO is one that we've already been playing. And that is why games as a service is sometimes amazing. They can change and become not the game we loved, and sometimes they can evolve and become better. But now to start the list out properly, friends, let's actually talk about Wayfinder, and if I could, definitely ramble and rant about even the definition of an MMO. So yeah, it's supposed to be massively multiplayer online. Wayfinder has been called an MMO, but in a lot of people's list videos and articles, they don't mention MMO. There's reasons for this, and if you're not a part of the community, you probably don't know the schism that we have in defining this genre, but basically Wayfinder, I think, is going to be a co-op action RPG. So, I mean, you can just see the gameplay for yourself. I think it's very self-explanatory. It looks freaking sweet. I love the attention to detail in this game. I also especially am attracted and emotionally involved with the fact that it's kind of more focused on character studies, character kits, instead of overall classes or some concept like that. Some games technically have classes, but then there's no customization. Some games have characters with a ton of customization. I'm not really sure where it fits in this game, but it seems like it's more leaning on Overwatch inspiration or hero shooter inspiration and bringing that into an ARPG formula, which is pretty freaking awesome. But hopefully also bringing that into a massive scale, I would really like that. When you have these more specific abilities and more specific roles, you get some wilder things. I mean, you've played Overwatch, you've played Paladins, you know what it's like. Some characters are just bonkers compared to others, right? Like the difference between D.Va as a tank and then Reinhardt as a tank. Just basically different games. Hopefully, we can have that in this game. But that's something to worry about as well, because normally when these sort of mechanics are in games, they are not massively multiplayer online titles. So is Wayfinder actually even an MMO? Let's go ahead and rant out an essay on that. Wayfinder sometimes is being called an MMO, sometimes it is not. Some articles mention that it's just co-op, and other people are just saying, yeah, this is the upcoming MMO. So anyways, sometimes this happens. This game actually does seem pretty close to finish, but there's a lot of details missing. So are we going to have raids proper? Are we going to have open world content? Are we going to have this or that? And how open is it? Is it 16 players, 4 players? Is it an MMO light, which you can consider something like Destiny, where you have certain open world areas that hold 16 players, but is that really massively multiplayer? Yeah, I want to know your guys' opinion in the comments below, but I already actually have cited explanations on that, and I would love to do a video on defining what an MMO is. I've actually already seen some of my peers do those videos, so I've already done some of those rant videos too, but basically, to me, I really like 40 players, at minimum. At minimum, I really would like 40 players. That's when it kind of starts to feel massive, you know what I'm saying? So anyways, whether it turns out to be an MMO or not, it's worth mentioning here because this is also part of a trend. Now, if we can essay on that. Basically, the trend of massively multiplayer online games is actually to make them smaller. In fact, all of the highest rated MMOs on Steam are effectively single player, or literally they have single player components. And then, of course, Final Fantasy XIV being the most popular MMO in the world, yeah, that's very not massively multiplayer. In fact, if it is even technically a massively multiplayer online game, which some people would debate, it's the least massively multiplayer online game. Even though it has great social experiences and stuff like that, whatever. So does Pokemon and Animal Crossing and a lot of different games. They have interesting, unique social experiences, Dark Souls, Elden Ring, but they're not MMOs, right? So there is a difference, and Wayfinder might be towing the line, or it might be blurring the line and pretending to be something it's not. Regardless, I don't know. I'm just throwing it up here because it looks freaking sweet. If you like MMOs, you'll like this game, but also just kind of wanted to mention there's a trend. Haven't you guys noticed that? And hopefully we can learn from that and make really cool games. In fact, I think WildStar would still be alive if it wasn't an MMO. So it's sometimes a good thing, Final Fantasy XIV is a good game, but I also I'm hungry for a good, massive experience. And hopefully we get more of that soon, as long as we are aware of what the differences are and what we can actually get uniquely from MMO. Next game we got to talk about, CorePunk. Super cool game. I actually even got some merch from these guys, I guess because I was like the first person to do a video on it, so definitely applause for that. Thanks. I still actually use the hoodie, for sure. But CorePunk is a game that I celebrated because its trailers were just really honest, and as somebody, like, I make trailers for games. I'm a community manager as well, and, you know, I'm always looking for new opportunities, so if you need your game and you need somebody to do some social media stuff... Anyways, guys, I'm not going to sell myself too much here, but basically CorePunk is a fun game that it's doing its publishing right, in my opinion, in the way that it's showing off its trailers, its content. Basically, like, it's just very honest about its mobility, it's very honest about its pacing, it's very honest about the experience that you're gonna get. Because some games will just, you know, remove the UI, show all the action, and then you get in and you learn that really the action is kind of just like, it looks cool, but it's not real. I'm talking about Black Desert. If you played Black Desert, you know what I'm talking about. It looks really cool, and it technically is in-depth on paper, but then when you play it, it's just very button mashing. You're kind of running through mindless monsters, for the most part, until you kind of get to the very end, basically. So, CorePunk just seems like this is going to be a slow game. It's going to be a tactical game. And based on the characters dying a lot in the trailers, it's probably going to be more of a hardcore experience, a challenging experience. So definitely for an older demographic, and they're wearing that on their sleeves, and that's really the moral of the story. It's kind of less like, look at all the little details of CorePunk, which it does look like a really cute game, especially being like sci-fi-ish. Cool, yeah, very novel. But really what I want to mention is that in a lot of MMO, especially trailers, like MMOs aren't pretty games, and normally you play with such a heavy UI, and how you actually play MMOs looks nothing like the gameplay or like the trailers of MMOs. But more and more, hopefully, we get more trailers like CorePunk. So if you see a game that's an MMO and it's doing trailers like CorePunk, then you know at least it won't be a bad game. And maybe it won't be a game for you, but it will be true to its messaging, because its trailers are being honest. And that's what we definitely need more in this genre. And just for those who don't know, to be aware of, you know, when you go and look for MMOs, a lot of them are going to look freaking sweet. But a lot of them, most of them, overwhelmingly, are lying. CorePunk doesn't seem like it is. And next up on our list, we have Blue Protocol. Now, Blue Protocol is kind of unique. We don't normally get a lot of Japanese MMO, and if we do, they're normally freaking weird, because Japan is incredibly Japanese. Japan just kind of has this very Japanese-centric view on designing stuff and things, and especially with online content, not even in just MMOs, but like in fighting games, online lobbies for all sorts of different titles. The online interactions are weird. But sometimes it's kind of cool, like Dark Souls. But in games that are totally completely designed around that concept, like MMOs, often it's not that good. So Blue Protocol looks really exciting, but I'm kind of worried, similar to Wayfinder, where it's like, how much of an MMO is it? How good is this going to be? Because it's very possible this game might be very similar to Final Fantasy XIV, where it is a good game, but kind of maybe, in terms of an MMO, not a good MMO, because that's entirely possible. There are going to be open world raids. It seems like maybe up to 40 players. So, like, okay, technically, but a lot of the other gameplay and footage and trailer stuffs that I've seen just makes it seem more slower paced, maybe even debatably clunky. And I'm wondering about how the latency is going to work here, because Japan has not been known to make very fleshed out online experiences. Nintendo Online, oh my god. But overall, I am excited because we haven't really gotten many anime MMO. And in fact, I tried making an anime MMO list. If you guys want that, I could still push it out, but most of them I'm like really stretching of the definition of an anime, and most of them actually aren't Japanese. They're Korean. So anyways, Blue Protocol is something that a lot of people are really excited for, especially coming off of the back of stuff like Genshin Impact, where we've had like really beautiful anime or anime-inspired cel-shaded art action RPGs. We want more. We definitely want more of that. We're really loving this art style, and having it in an MMO coming to our genre, that sounds really cool. Otherwise, that's pretty much all I gotta say. Japan is very Japanese, and for any online experience, we should be weary, but you know what? It's still worth giving it a shot, because at least we know it's gonna be unique. And finally, I guess we can talk about Throne and Liberty. This is probably going to be a game that's very popular. In fact, I really can imagine it as sort of like the next Archeage experience. And I actually know there's an Archeage 2 coming out, but also similar to the day before, Throne and Liberty is another one of these games, and even, yeah, future, maybe in a couple years we'll get the Archeage 2 and many other titles. These games that focus on like hyper fidelity, yeah, this is one of them. And I'm really excited about that. I really do want attention to detail. I do want gorgeous games, but I hope they take that attention to detail and add it into the user experience overall, where games like Black Desert Online looks amazing without a UI. Yeah, but when you're actually playing the game, the actual real-time experience, totally different. So hopefully Throne and Liberty can learn from those sins. But another red flag to actually talk about is the publisher. This is a publisher that I know growing up in the golden age of MMOs. Many MMOs came out, and many of them from this publishing house that, well, it turned out to be kind of a little bit pay to win, or there was awkward monetization, or it looked really cool or it was really fun for a little bit, but then you get into the game and it's like, kind of unbalanced and not, yeah, it's a little awkward. Can people change? Can publishers change? I actually really think so, especially seeing how the first game I talked about in this video was World of Warcraft, where Blizzard started amazing and then dipped down and amazing and dipped down and amazing and really dipped down, and now we're back maybe at neutral? It's like kind of cool? Yeah, I don't know. It's always possible, friends and family. Even if a game shuts down and comes back, or even if a game has been pay to win forever and gets a new publisher and changes monetization, it's always possible. So yeah, you probably want me to talk about the micro mechanics of these games. You probably want me to talk about what this game could actually have in store. But to be honest, anything can go up and down. You can see from the gameplay. You're seeing as much as I know, pretty much. These are pretty early on, and even though they are going to release this year, so you think, well, it's not so early, actually. They're going to release this year. An MMO is really not finished, like, ever. And so the first year of an MMO is, I basically consider it beta testing. But it's still fun. It's very, very fun. Maybe debatably the most fun to play. Actually in that time. So Throne and Liberty, it looks really fun in terms of like, it's gorgeous. And action combat, cool, let's have a good time. And I think, this is going to be a weird moral, but basically like, even if this game turns out to be pay to win, and even if this game turns out to be garbage, like it has no end game or whatever, you know, in fact, even if this game is just in general bad, because it looks so good, and because the marketing on this game is so powerful, and there's so much hype around this game, you will probably have a good time for like a week, minimum. And that's actually, like, if you play an MMO for, like, you know, 4 to 8 hours every day for a week, you live it for a week, you're kind of going to get your money's worth out of it, and you're going to have a great time, you're going to make memories, you're probably going to make friends. So, yeah, I mean, I know it's hard to reward a game for just looking pretty and then releasing, you know, unfinished. So many titles have done that recently, but kind of in closing, it is fun. And there's a reason why videos like this, no matter who you are, get views. There's a reason why you're still hungry and chasing that dragon. Even though I can say it's bad and you should know your lesson, well, I'm making this video, aren't I? And I am excited for these games. So, yeah, basically, it kind of doesn't matter what this game has to offer. It looks freaking dope. It's like a fantasy game that has cool graphics, and like I'll get to play with all my friends. You know what, guys? It's good enough for me. And anything I could say would just be announcing whatever you're seeing on the screen anyways. So until we get more information, maybe I'll do some more videos on that if you want to. But more, I want to make my videos have morals and be like almost like micro essays filled in with them. So if you guys enjoyed that, well, this is my ranty video. I just wanted to put some heart into it. If you guys appreciate that, then like and subscribe. But that's what I got for the upcoming MMOs. These are my selections of the ones that will probably release this year or very shortly after. Will probably be decent times for a time and will offer us something unique and different. Just a little bit. So what do you guys think? Which ones are you rooting for? If it comes out this year, next year, what have you? Which are the ones that you want to play? And if there's an MMO you're playing right now, should we play it? Let us know too. That's pretty much all I got to say, guys. Much love. And you guys don't be strangers. Come on, join the Discord in the description down below. Let's all jump into an MMO. Let's make a guild. Let's have some fun.